Midnight steps, the halls of the ship were quiet. Lights dimmed to resting mode. Most of the crew had already gone to sleep, their quarters sealed and peaceful. But not Lyra. She walked silently, her bare feet brushing the cool metal floor. Her long cloak trailed softly behind her, and her violet eyes glowed faintly in the dark. She was an alien, yes, but also a servant, assigned to the human section of the star cruiser Unity Flame. The humans liked to work late, and her job was to tidy the rooms, fold uniforms, and clean gear while they slept. She didn't mind. It gave her time to think, but tonight was different. There was one human on this ship who always kept to himself. His name was Eric. He didn't talk much, didn't laugh like the others. He trained harder than the rest. His meals were quiet. His room always locked. Lyra had never seen it from the inside until now. She walked down the final corridor and paused in front of Eric's room. For the first time, the door was open just slightly. A small gap. Just enough to peek through. Hesitated should she? It wasn't proper to look into a private room. But curiosity, it was a strange and powerful thing. Her species, the Varnari, believed in rules. But her time with humans had changed something in her. Just a little. She took a breath, then stepped. Inside, the room was dimly lit by a single lamp. The bed was untouched. Neatly made. Cold. Eric wasn't sleeping instead. He stood in the center of the room. Shirtless, his back to the door. His skin, pale and marked with strange symbol scars, tattoos, or something else, glowed faintly under the light. But it wasn't his body that shocked her. It was what floated in front of him. A device. Small, silent, hovering above the floor. It pulsed with energy. Blue light, spinning runes. Gravity bent slightly around it. The air shimmered. Lyra froze. She had seen many machines. She worked on a ship filled with advanced tech. But this was not part of the ship. This was older, deeper, something forgotten. Eric didn't move. His hand hovered just above the device. He whispered words, not in English, not in Varnari. A third tongue. Unknown. Ancient. And then, without warning, the device pulsed harder. The floor beneath it cracked, just slightly. Reality, just for a second, bent. Lyra's heart stopped. She had been taught to recognize danger. This was more than danger. This was a power that wasn't allowed. Not anymore. She took a step back. A floor panel creaked. Eric turned. His eyes met hers. For a moment, silence filled the room. He looked surprised, but not angry. Just tired. Like he had been waiting for someone to find out. Lyra opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her body wouldn't move. Her brain refused to understand what she had just seen. Eric broke the silence. You weren't supposed to see that. His voice was calm, quiet, almost kind. She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. What is it? He didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, he walked over and gently touched the device. It faded, vanished into thin air. Not powered. Down. Gone. Like it had never existed. He turned back to her. You should forget this, he said, but Lyra knew she couldn't. She stepped back again, breathing fast. That wasn't human tech. No, Eric said. It's not. Not anymore. Her hands trembled. And what are you? Eric looked past her, toward the stars beyond the window. I'm what they made. And then tried to forget. Lyra's knees weakened. She leaned against the wall. Something about his voice, his eyes, the scars on his back, it all pointed to a truth her people feared. Humans weren't just strong. Some of them were something else entirely. She had entered a room to clean. Now. She wasn't sure she would ever sleep again. Asterisk, the warning Lyra stared at Eric as the glow from the device faded from the room. Her heart still pounded, and her breathing was fast. She had never seen anything like it. Not on this ship. Not even in the entire Varnarai database. Eric walked past her slowly and pressed the door shut. The room sealed with a soft hiss. No. One else saw? He asked, turning back to her. Lyra shook her head. No, I came alone. He nodded. Good. That buys us a little time. She didn't like the way he said us, like they were now tied together, like whatever she saw had made her part of something she didn't understand. What is that thing? She asked. The floating object. It bent the floor. It wasn't just tech. It's not tech, Eric said. Not like what you're used to. It's called a singularity core. It creates possibilities. Lyra blinked. I don't understand. I know. That's why they hid it. That's why they made sure no one could study it. Not even your elders. She stepped back from him. Wait, they? Who do you mean? He looked directly into her eyes. The ones who built me. The room felt colder suddenly. Lyra's blood chilled. You're built? He nodded. Modified. Enhanced. Whatever word you like. I was born human, but not meant to stay that way. She stared at him in silence, trying to grasp the truth. Who would do that to a person? A group called the Deep Core Initiative, he said quietly. They existed long before the Galactic Alliance. They saw what was coming, so they made weapons. Humans. Shaped into something more. She shook her head slowly. You're saying you're a weapon? Eric didn't smile. Not just me. There were others, but I'm the last one left. Lyra turned toward the door. I shouldn't be here. You're already involved now, he said. And if you walk out of this room, they'll know. The sensors on this ship are smarter than you think. The wrong word, the wrong movement, they'll come for both of us. Her eyes widened. You're saying someone's watching? Always, Eric replied. But they haven't seen what you saw. Not yet. And I need your help to keep it that way. She laughed softly, bitterly. I'm just a maid. No, Eric said. You're someone? Who was curious enough to walk through that door. That means you're braver than you think. She looked at him, still unsure whether to be afraid or impressed. Her mind raced with questions, but one rose above them all. Why are you hiding it? She asked. Why stay quiet if you're the last of your kind? He looked toward the small window on the wall, the one that showed the stars outside. Because if I speak, he said, the galaxy might burn. The silence that followed felt heavy. Lyra had never felt fear like this, not from danger, but from knowing too much. The kind of fear that wrapped around your chest and made the world feel smaller. She stepped closer. What do you want me to do? Eric turned to her again. I want you to pretend none of this happened, for now. But if I'm gone, if they find me, then I need someone who remembers. Remembers what? She asked softly. He walked over to a drawer and pulled out a small black chip. He placed it gently into her hand. This holds everything. My memory, my history, the truth. Keep it hidden. Keep it safe. She looked down at the chip and back up at him. Why me? Because. Eric said, you didn't scream. You didn't run. And you didn't look at me like I was a monster. Lyra stared at the chip. Its surface was smooth and cold. It looked harmless. But now, it felt like the heaviest thing she had ever held. Outside the room, the hallway remained dark and quiet. But inside, something had changed. A secret had passed between two souls from different worlds, and neither would ever be the same again. Asterisk, eyes in the shadows. Lyra walked down the corridor with careful steps. The small black chip Eric had given her was hidden inside her cleaning pouch. It was light in weight, but heavy on her mind. She looked over her shoulder every few minutes. No alarms had sounded. No one stopped her, but her nerves were tight. Each hallway light seemed brighter than usual. Every door she passed felt like it was watching her. She finally reached the storage room and shut herself inside. It was quiet, safe, or so she thought. She slid to the floor and took out the chip. She stared at it, wondering what it truly held. Eric's words echoed in her mind. If they find me, you remember. What was she supposed to do with this kind of responsibility? She was just a cleaner on a human ship. She wasn't a spy. She wasn't a warrior. She closed her hand around the chip and took a deep breath. Then a knock. Her whole body jumped. The door to the storage room didn't open right away, but someone was there. Waiting. She stood quickly and placed the chip under a pile of folded towels. The door slid open. It was Commander Balin, a tall, cold officer from the security division. His eyes were always sharp, and his tone never friendly. Lyra, he said plainly, you were near the lower quarters this cycle. Why? I was cleaning, Commander, she said, bowing slightly. Eric's section wasn't scheduled, but his door was open. I thought he might need service. Balin didn't blink. He reported no request for assistance. Did you see anything unusual? Lyra held her breath. Her heart thundered in her chest, but her voice stayed calm. No, Commander. He said he didn't need anything, so I left. He studied her for a moment too long. You're sure? Yes, Commander. Silence stretched between them. Then Balin nodded once and stepped away. The door closed behind him without a word. Lyra waited another full minute before she dared to breathe again. She leaned against the wall, her knees shaking. He knew. Maybe. Not everything, but something. She pulled the towels back and checked the chip. Still there. Still safe. But how long would that last? Eric sat in his room, staring at the floor where the device had floated. It was gone now. Hidden deep within the walls, sealed behind false panels. But its memory was still strong, and so was the danger. He had trusted her. A maid. An alien. But she didn't scream. She didn't run. That meant something. But now time was short. He stood and walked to his desk. He opened a thin drawer and pulled out a different device, flat, silver, and silent. He placed it on the table and tapped it once. A small blue light blinked. Unit 3 active, it said in a robotic voice. Awaiting. Voice protocol. Start the emergency fallback, Eric said. Confirmed. Message will be sent in 72 hours if no cancellation is received. Eric nodded. It was a message meant for only one place. Earth. That he didn't want it to be used. But if Balin or anyone else discovered the truth, this ship wouldn't be able to stop what came next. Meanwhile, in the control tower of the ship, Commander, Balin stood before a glowing screen. Data lines scrolled down at speed. He tapped one section and replayed it. A hallway feed. Footsteps. Lyra. Entering Eric's room. At midnight, he narrowed his eyes. No alarms were triggered, but the ship's passive recorders had caught the motion. He zoomed in and studied her face, worried, curious. Not a regular cleaning bath. She stayed for 7 minutes. 2. Long. He tapped another key. Security level Alpha. A red light flashed on the screen. Access denied. Eric's quarters had privacy protocols stronger than most officers. Even Balin couldn't see what happened inside, without approval from high command. That made him angrier. He leaned in and spoke. Flagged the maid. Continuous watch. Silent protocol. Do not alert subject. The system responded. Tracking initiated. As the lights in the command room dimmed again, Balin whispered under his breath, I don't know what you're hiding, Eric, but I'll find it. And when I do, you'll wish you never left Earth. Shadows close in Lyra moved carefully through. The ship the next day. She tried to act normal, smiling at passing crew, nodding politely when addressed, doing her usual cleaning tasks. But inside, she was shaking. Something felt wrong. Too many eyes. Too many random questions. And the ship's sensors followed her. Steps with perfect timing, even in low-security zones. She had cleaned here for months. That never happened before. They were watching her. She entered the laundry bay and closed the door behind her. Then she checked all corners. Nothing visible. Still, she whispered. "I know you're listening," she said quietly to the walls. "But you won't find it." The black chip was now hidden in a ventilation duct behind her sleeping unit. No scanner would find it without tearing the whole wall apart. Still, she needed help, and she only knew one person who could give it. Eric was waiting when she came. She found him in the gym. He was lifting weights far heavier than any normal crew member could manage, alone, focused, like nothing else existed. But when she entered, he stopped. "They're watching me," Lyra whispered. He nodded once. "I know. Commander Balin came to me," she added. "He asked what I saw. I told him nothing, but he didn't believe me." "He won't stop," Eric said. "Not until he has what he wants." Lyra leaned in. "What does he want? You? The device? Or the thing inside that ship?" "All of it," Eric replied. "But mostly he wants control. And people like me can't be controlled." She sat on the bench beside him. "Then what do we do?" He looked at her with calm, steady eyes. "We give him something to chase." That night, as most of the crew rested, a strange alarm triggered on Deck 9. Lights flickered. Motion sensors caught a shadow moving fast. Security teams rushed toward it. They found nothing. Just a damaged panel, scorched wires, and one repeating. Message blinking on a screen. Singularity Core. Activation failed. Subject not present. Commander Balin stared at the screen. His jaw tightened. A distraction. He muttered. He turned to his second in command. "Double the watch on Eric. Lock his door. I want every byte of data from his systems. I don't care how many codes you have to break." Back in the cargo bay, Lyra and Eric stood quietly behind stacks of sealed crates. "You sure they'll believe it?" Lyra whispered. "They already do," Eric said. "Balin thinks I'm hiding something. That gives us an edge. When people believe a lie too quickly, they forget to look for the truth." She nodded slowly. "What if they catch us? Then I make sure they regret it." For a moment, she forgot Eric was human. He looked too calm, too focused. His eyes so steady felt like the stillness before a storm. Then he handed her a second chip. This one was red. "Use this if untaken," he said. "It will unlock the full data hidden in the first chip." She took it with both hands. "You trust me too much," she whispered. "I've seen what your people do when they believe in something." Eric replied. "You don't run. You protect what matters." But unknown to both of them, far above the ship, something moved. A satellite, small and silent, repositioned itself. Its camera lens zoomed in on the Unity flame. And deep within the galactic network, an encrypted message triggered silently. Subject Eric located. Preparing retrieval. Contact sleeper agents. Back on the ship, Commander Balin finally broke protocol and accessed a private communication line. A secure one. Off the books. Voice on the other side was cold and mechanical. "You are told to observe," it said, "not interfere." "I've found something," Balin replied. "It's him. The last one." Silence followed for a moment. Then the voice answered. "Then prepare the cage. The others are already on the way." Balin grinned darkly. Understood. He closed the line and looked toward the ship's map, where Eric's room blinked with a red marker. "You've been hiding for too long," he whispered. Let's see what happens when the whole galaxy finds out what you are. Asterisk the lockdown. The next day, the lights on the Unity flame didn't follow their normal cycle. A red glow replaced the soft blue morning hue. A quiet alarm rang through. The corridor's nothing loud, but enough to make everyone uneasy. Ship-wide lockdown. Remain in your quarters. This is not a drill. Lyra stood frozen in the hallway with her cleaning cart. She looked around, no one else in sight. Only silence. Then her communicator blinked. One message. Just one word. Now. Eric, she turned, and pushed the cart quickly toward the lower deck. Her heart pounded harder with every step. She knew she was being watched. Every camera, every door sensor, everything could report her position. But she had to reach Eric. In the main command room. Commander Balin watched the ship's feed closely. He zoomed in on Lyra's movements. "Where is she going?" asked his second officer. "She's leading us right to him," Balin said with a smirk. "Seal off everything except Deck 7. Let her think she's still free." Behind him, a group of heavily armed soldiers in black armor stood ready. No name tags. No ranks. Just silent, faceless hunters. Balin pointed to the screen. "You know the orders. Bring him back. Alive if possible." The lead hunter nodded once. Lyra reached Eric's door. It was sealed. She tapped a hidden panel beside the frame. Something Eric had shown her. The lock beeped, and the door slid open. Inside, Eric stood calmly beside the now visible Singularity core. It pulsed softly in midair. "They're coming," Lyra said breathlessly. "Soldiers, lots of them." "I know," Eric said. "They've been waiting for this moment. So have I." He held out a small gray disk and placed it on the ground. It expanded instantly, forming a field of flickering energy, a barrier. Then he looked at her. "I need 10 minutes. Can you buy me that?" Lyra blinked. "I don't even know how to fight." "You know how to think," Eric said. "That's more dangerous than any weapon." She swallowed hard and nodded. "What do I do?" He pointed to a nearby vent panel. "Take the backup chip. Head to the engineering bay. There's a relay hidden in the power core wall. Connect the chip there. It'll start sending the message across the deep channels." "What message?" she asked. "The truth," Eric said simply. "What they did. What I am. What's coming." Lyra crawled through the maintenance vents. She clutched the chip tightly and moved fast, her knees scraping metal. The sounds of boots echoed below her. Shouts. Orders. The hunters had boarded at one point. She paused, watching through a vent crack as soldiers surrounded Eric's room. Weapons ready. She whispered under her breath, "Please don't die." "Ben." She kept crawling. Inside his room. Eric stood calm. The lead hunter stepped through the barrier field, his weapon drawn. "Subject Eric," the voice said through a voice modulator. "Stand down." Eric tilted his head slightly. "Did they tell you what I really am?" The hunter didn't reply. Eric stepped forward, placing one hand into the pulsing energy of the Singularity core. For a split second, the lights on the entire deck flickered. Then Eric's body shimmered like light, bending around gravity. The hunter opened fire, but Eric moved faster than light. In 1 second, he was behind the hunter. In another, the hunter crashed into the wall, unconscious. The rest opened fire, but Eric was no longer there. Lyra dropped down into engineering. The room was empty, abandoned during the lockdown. She ran to the power core and found the relay exactly where Eric said it would be. She plugged in the chip. A small blue light turned on. Message uploading? She looked around nervously, whispering to herself, "Come on, come on." Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Voices. Someone was coming. The upload bar was at 43%. She stood in front of it, arms outstretched. If they came in now, she would have. To stall, or die trying. Elsewhere, in the ship's dark data room, Balin stared at a flashing warning. Unauthorized broadcast detected. He growled. They're sending it. He opened the secure line again. Shut it down now. Use the override. The voice on the other end responded coldly. Too late. The message is spreading. Every deep node across the quadrant is lighting up. Commander. Balin slammed his fist on the console. Then destroy the ship if you must. But make sure Eric doesn't survive. The human weapon Eric moved like a shadow through the ship. The armored soldiers hunted him, but he was always one step ahead. His body shifted through light and metal, like he bent space itself around him. The halls of the Unity flame shook. Alarms blared. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Doors sealed and unsealed without warning. And all over the ship, a single message played on the hidden channels. They made him. They built him to control time, space, and thought. And then they buried him. Now he remembers. The truth was outdot in the engineering bay. Lyra stood between the power relay and the armed guards who had just burst in. Step aside. One of them shouted. Lyra's heart pounded, but she didn't move. The upload is almost complete. You're too late. They raised their weapons. She clenched her fists. Go ahead. If you shoot me, you'll damage the relay. You'll destroy what you're trying to stop. For a moment, they hesitated, but then the door behind them exploded open. Eric stood in the cloud of smoke and sparks, the singularity core floating behind him. His eyes glowed silver. His skin pulsing with energy got the guards open fire. The bullets stopped mid-dash air got frozen, suspended like drops of rain in a paused moment. Eric walked past them slowly, calmly. He touched each of their weapons. They bent, crumbled, and dropped to the floor as useless metal. The soldiers collapsed without a fight. Eric stepped beside Lyra. Are you okay? She nodded, trembling. Yes, but I'm scared. You're allowed to be, he said softly. But you didn't run. That means everything. The upload finished. A green light flashed on the console. Broadcast complete. Across hundreds of systems, hidden servers activated. Old allies, long-forgotten stations, and even rogue ships received the truth about the Singularity Project. The secret was no longer hidden. In the command center. Commander Balin screamed into his control panel. Shut it down. Burn the whole transmission system if you must. A technician looked up. We can't. The message spread into backup relays we didn't even know existed. Balin's voice cracked. Then overload the ship core. If we can't erase the message, we destroy the source. Sir, the technician said slowly, the core is shielded now. By him. Balin stood in silence. Then he turned to the silent black-armored hunter team still remaining. Fall back. I'll do this myself. Eric and Lyra stood side by side in the core chamber. She looked at the flickering singularity core. What happens now? Eric looked up at the ceiling. Now, we give them a message they'll never forget. The room lights dimmed. Another door hissed open. Balin stepped through, alone, a small detonator in his hand. This ends here, he said. Eric didn't move. You're wrong. This starts here. Balin laughed bitterly. You don't know what you've done. You've exposed every secret the galaxy has buried. The people will riot. Civilizations will fall. Good, Eric said. Let them rise better than before. Balin raised the detonator. I'll make sure you never leave this ship. Eric raised his hand. The room trembled. The detonator snapped into pieces in Balin's hand before he could press it. He stumbled back in shock. You should have left me buried, Eric said. A wave of energy burst from the singularity core. Didn't destroy it, rewrote. Systems realigned. Lockdowns ended. Weapons turned off. The Unity flame stopped shaking, and Eric began to fade. Lyra gasped. What's happening? Eric looked at her with calm eyes. The core wasn't meant to be used. Not like this, but I had no choice. It's rewriting me too. She reached for him. No, there has to be a way to stop it. He shook his head. You already did the most important thing. You helped me be seen. His form shimmered brighter. Don't forget me, Lyra. And then he was gone. The ship was silent. Balin was dragged away by security forces. His secrets exposed. His command over. Lyra stood alone in the chamber, staring at the core, now quiet. It had collapsed into a tiny black crystal still warm from energy. She picked it up gently and whispered to herself, I won't forget. Asterisk echoes in the stars' days passed. The Unity flame floated in orbit around a quiet moon. Its systems restored, its lockdown lifted, but everything had changed. The corridors were quiet. No one spoke Eric's name out loud, but everyone remembered. Soldiers whispered about him. Engineers stared longer at the stars. The crew, once calm and routine, now carried unease in their eyes. The message Eric sent had reached every edge of the galaxy. Lyra stood in the garden chamber, a small, peaceful area filled with glowing plants from different worlds. It had always been her favorite place on the ship. Eric had never visited it, but somehow she felt close to him there. In her hand, she held the crystal, the collapsed form of the Singularity core. Its surface was cold now, but still pulsed gently, as if it remembered him too. A voice came from behind. Your Lyra? Yes? She turned and saw a man in civilian clothes, older, quiet, with calm eyes. He had a small badge on his coat. Not military. She nodded. Yes. I came from Earth, from an agency that no longer officially exists. I knew Eric a long time ago. Lyra didn't speak. She simply waited. He was never meant to survive, the man said. He outlived all the others. Escaped our watch. And I'm glad he did. She stepped forward. Why are you here? To protect what's left, the man replied. That core. It's still active. Not in a dangerous way. But in the right hands, it could help rebuild, not destroy. Lyra looked down at the crystal. He told me never to forget. You didn't, the man said. That's why I'm here. He reached into his coat and handed her a small white card. It had no writing, only a symbol, a circle inside a triangle. When you're ready, come find us, he said. The galaxy is waking up, and people like you will need you. He left without another word. Lyra stared at the symbol. For a long time, across the galaxy, news of the broadcast spread like wildfire. Worlds once under control by silent alliances now questioned everything. The idea that humans had built a being like Eric and then hidden him terrified some, inspired others. Some planets banned the message. Others played it every hour. A movement began to rise. People started asking, what else is being kept from? You? And in the background, the symbol began to appear on walls, in messages, across data hubs, a circle inside a triangle, the mark of the new Watchers. Back on the Unity flame, Lyra stood on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before her. She no longer wore her servant robes. She had been promoted, not just because of what she did, but because of who she had become. She was no longer just a maid. She was a messenger. And someday soon, she would leave this ship. She would find the place Eric wanted her to find. The place where people believed in truth more than silence. Her hand closed around the crystal in her pocket. As the ship began to move toward its next destination, she whispered, softly, just loud enough for the stars to hear. He was human once, but more than that, he was hope. And he's not forgotten. Final message broadcasted to the galaxy. Excerpt. His name was Eric. He was Maid. shaped and hidden, because he could bend the laws that limit us all. They feared him. They tried to erase him. But someone believed in him, and that made all the difference. This is not the end. This is the awakening.